Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to News in Motion. It is your guy, Isaiah Jones, coming to you live as your hype host for Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023. We have a workshop Wednesday for you tonight. I said tonight. In case you're watching the replay, you are probably watching it at night. But if you are here live at 7:25 a.m., we just want to say good morning to you, whether you're tuning in through LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, audio, or podcast. We just want to say thank you for always tuning in, always supporting us. We have a special guest with us this morning. Pastor Derek Holmes will be joining us in a few moments, alongside, of course, Miss Gail Dudley. So as you're coming into the room, be sure to like, comment, share this with a few friends. Grab your breakfast, grab your pen and paper, because we have some valuable information for you today. So with that being said, let's go get this news in motion.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Isaiah. I love this hype guy we have coming out here now. I'm bringing us all the information we need. I see Adrian coming in from YouTube. Thank you for staying on that platform. We're going to get more of you to move over there by May, once we come back from our break in April. I see Lori Wallace this morning. I see Deborah Johnson this morning. I see Dr. Antoinette this morning. I see Marion Jackson, Shirley Nicholson, Rosanna, Robert Holman. Good morning to you. What's up, Patrice Jones? I see Jeffrey Allen James. I see Jacqueline in there. I saw some more names pop up in here. I'm trying to catch them all. So forgive me if I have not had an opportunity to shout out your name. Yeah, we have an amazing guest with us today. This is really our Wednesday workshop. So we're going to also call it a special segment, because we're going to dig deep. And as Isaiah shared with you, you're going to want some a memo, computer, paper, something, because you're going to have notes. And I think you're going to be eager to take down these notes. I see Pastor Alex Williams coming in from Florida as well. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Do us a favor, y'all. Hit those hearts, those thumbs up, like this, share this. That helps get the algorithm up on all platforms. So be sure to do that. I see them going up now. Thank you. Keep them going. Keep them going. Keep them going. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. As Isaiah said, today is Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023. I am your host, Gail Dudley. Welcome everyone who tunes in live, or if you're listening to the replay. I just want to say thank you for allowing me to spend a little portion of your day with you. All right, y'all, to continue with Women's History Month. This magazine for women is amazing. It's called Where Women Create. Women Working for a Stronger America. They have several issues each month. I say each month, it's each quarter. And it's just a great piece. There's some things in here you'll like, there's some things in here you don't like, but I believe in reading everything, because when you're checking out everything, like there's all kinds of stuff in this magazine. When you're checking out things in here, you're reading, seeing what other people are doing, and I think that's always great. So make sure you check this out. Even the headline here, I know you're probably looking at this saying, I don't want that. Trust me, you do, because you learn a lot in here. So again, you can find this on in Barnes and Noble. I have not seen it in Target or Walmart or Walgreens. I may have seen it in CVS, not 100% sure. And I think you can also get it on Amazon, but it's really, really good. You can subscribe, or you can just get per issue, but y'all know I read everything. I want to know what's happening. So that's what I want to share with Women's History Month. On Friday, if you are not following subscribe to Politics and Prose, the podcast with Gail Dudley, I'm encouraging you to do so. We have a guest on this Friday that I'm just in awe of things. And Hester, I see you popped in here. Good morning to you. Hester, I think you need to meet this woman. Y'all, I have a realtor from the Bahamas who also she also conducts real estate in Spain. She will be joining me with the podcast on Friday, the nuggets, why you should look at going um, in partnership to buy property out of the country, where some key pieces of real estate that you should have your eyes on. It's just going to be a great conversation. So you don't want to miss it. And if you haven't listened to the Women's History series this month, please go back, download, and listen to it and share it. I see you, Cherie. I see you. I see you. I see you. All right, in the news, real quick, and we're going to reserve the rest of the time for our special guest. Again, you're going to want some notepads, your computer, laptop, memo section, whatever. We're going deep today. So it could also trigger some things. So I'm just wanting to give you that warning. Y'all, at least 11 people are killed. USA Today reports a magnitude 6.5 earthquake has rattled much of Pakistan and Afghanistan, sending residents fleeing from their homes and offices. At least 11 people have died and dozens were injured in this northwest Pakistan earthquake on yesterday. So, y'all, this is in the center of Afghanistan. Y'all, LA schools strikes. Associated Press is reporting more than 30,000 Los Angeles school employees and teachers began a 3-day strike yesterday, forcing nearly 500,000 students to stay home in the nation's second largest school district. At the center of negotiations between Local 99 of the Service Employees International Union and the Los Angeles Unified School District is pay. Union officials seek 30% pay raise and a $2 per hour wage increase. Other unions' demands include more full-time work, equal access to health care, and increased staffing levels. I want y'all to hear that. They're asking for a $2 per hour wage increase. If you ask me, I think that's a little low. You're talking about Los Angeles. Then they're also asking for full-time work, give them what they need, equal access to health care. We all need health care. I see you, Fred Jones, popping in here, and increased staffing levels. The district has offered a 23% pay increase over a 5-year period with a 3% cash bonus and a $20 per hour minimum wage and full health care benefits for those working at least 4 hours a day. And they're saying we don't work. Many of us don't even have those 4 hours a day. The average salary and support staff workers is $25,000 a year in LA. In LA, automatically they're what you consider in the impoverished level. Come on, in LA, $25,000 a year. What is that getting you? And they don't have health care. What is that getting you? Y'all, roughly 60% of the students in the school district are considered economically disadvantaged. During the strike, the district opened 24 grab and go food sites and the student supervision at the school. So we also now have students who are able to have their food. And although they have 24, they opened 24 grab and go food sites, can the students get there? Because their parents are probably at work. So what is all of this? What is all of this saying? And you may be thinking, well, I don't live there. Well, you got to pay attention. So hold on, let me keep going. Y'all, Reuters is reporting U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said the decision to backstop depositors in Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank when the institutions collapsed was necessary to safeguard the banking ecosystem, and that similar actions could be warranted if other smaller banks face comparable bank runs. Now, we're talking about they're going to raise above that $250,000 limit for FDIC to secure your deposits. I want y'all to think about this and let's connect these dots. We have teachers who's educating our people at $25,000 a year. But we're talking about saving these banks and increasing the FDIC for those who have more than $250,000 in the bank. There's some disparities here, y'all. This is what we mean by disparities. Pay attention, pay attention. Because then we have Wall Street Journal who came out yesterday. And they said for the first time in 131 months, I want y'all to think about this. Y'all don't just say, oh, that's the headline news. No, listen to what I'm saying, please. I'm begging you. Y'all, after 131 months, the median price of a home in the U.S. fell on an annual basis. The median price for an existing home in February dropped 0.2% to $363,000. Really? That drops? Okay, I guess that's a good sign it's dropping. Maybe it's coming down more. But I want y'all to remember, in Los Angeles, annual salary is $25,000 a year. They can't pay for a $363,000 home. And that's the median income. Y'all want to talk about LA? That's probably about $563,000. I want us to think, go broader. Yes, think about your community, think local, then think state, then think national. I want y'all to think about everything that's happening and the precedents that are set and how these negotiations are going. They can't even get health care. They're saving the banks. The moratorium for foreclosure has come off. Yes, Kim Edmondson, $25,000 a year. This is, I want us to start really focusing on the broader narrative when we're going into 2024. Marion says it's all about the money, not education. There's that. So y'all, on top of all of that, Kim Edmondson says, who can live on that? Great question. But you'd be surprised. No, you won't. For many of us, we would be surprised how many people, the percentage of people who are trying to live off of that. That's why we have 33 million Americans who are food insecure. And that number is starting to slightly raise, not decrease. Although the home prices are decreasing, those who are food insecure are increasing. I want us to pay attention to this. Yes, Mike Nicholson, we can't live off of that here either in Columbus, Ohio. So I have a special guest with us today. He's not a stranger to any of you, and this is Pastor Derek Holmes. The reason I bring him back on certain topics is because this is something that he researches and he studies and he's getting the word out. It was a joy when I was a consultant for an organization working alongside him. We were getting things done, and we weren't holding our tongue either. That's probably why they had to separate us, because we were like, we ain't doing that, or nope, that's not gonna be enough. In our negotiation and how we were dealing with even the attorney general's office and judges and council people. Y'all can't be wimpy when you're dealing with this. So even if you're considering running for office, you can't be wimpy. You have to fight back. You have to say something. You have to have your facts. We were always researching and looking at the numbers and getting the percentage points and saying, but this is what's happening, but this is the real deal. We weren't just taking answers. We weren't being disrespectful, but we were being passionate about our community and the people that we serve. So I want us to start looking at policing, because although we have teachers striking, we have the banks who are collapsing, but they're being saved. We have financial financial disparities across the board. We have healthcare issues. We have inflation. We have food insecurity, and I can go on and on and on. We cannot turn a blind eye to policing, because believe it or not, there's dots that are connecting, and Derek's going to show you how these connect, from those who are food insecure to those who have health disparities or no health care to those who are living off of $25,000 who are degreed teachers. Okay, I want y'all to hear this. To those of us who are politicians and activists and raising the questions, he's going to connect all these dots right back down to policing. And by the way, he didn't get arrested yesterday either. But anyway, y'all, Washington Post reports 1,082 people have been shot and killed by police in the past 12 months. Past 12 months, 1,082 people. The Washington Post have been tracing since 2015 8,298 fatal police shootings since 2015. There was a 90-page report released by the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. They found that the Louisville and Memphis Police Department, just those two, use excessive force, including unjust neck restraints and unreasonable use of police dogs and tasers. And when I say just those two, I'm saying those are the only two from the 90-page report. and they're building on that. So, but this right here that I'm about to share with you is just it's unbelievable. They conduct searches based on invalid warrants, unlawfully execute warrants without knocking and announcing, unlawfully stop, searches, detains, and arrests people during traffic and pedestrian stops, violates the rights of people engaged in protected speech critical of policing, discriminates against people with behavioral health disabilities while responding to crisis. That's just a tip, y'all. That's just a tip. For example, just on March the 15th, Robert Bruce Clendon, age 76, was killed in Temple, Georgia. Glenard Herndon, age 31, killed on March the 12th, 2023, in Jackson, Tennessee. These are police killings. Danny Ray Jackson, age 47, killed on March the 12th, 2023, in Longview, Texas. And then after Michael Brown, an unarmed Black man, as y'all know, who was killed in 2014 by police in Ferguson, Missouri, a post investigation found that the data reported to the FBI on fatal police shootings was uncounted by more than half. I'm sorry, undercounted by more than half. The gap was widened in recent years, and by 2021, only a third of departments' fatal shootings appeared in the FBI database. So where are the rest of them? So bring on Isaiah, if you would bring in Pastor Derek home so we can start this conversation. We have a lot to talk about this morning. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good, but when I was doing better until I reread this. You know, I've been studying this since what we talked last week. I've been studying this. I'm like, this is a lot, and I'm reading it again. You know, you work through your feelings as you're building and researching, but now just reading this again is like it hits you again, like, wow. And yet we're talking about the banks being saved by, you know, because billionaires are losing their money,
Right.
banks are being saved. But here's the thing. I think we, meaning everyday people who are not in that billionaire status, or maybe not even in the millionaire status, we're the ones paying for this entire US system. Let's call it what it is. That's why we was always getting kicked out of meetings, because we would raise something or like, y'all need to leave. But anyway, but so just reading this, and then what was very interesting to me, and this is where we're just going to start the conversation here. What was very interesting to me in this Washington Post piece is that they were talking about Black Americans are killed at a much higher rate than white Americans, and it shows 5.9 per under Blacks, 5.9 per million per year. That's 1,926 killed total just in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
That takes off really all the numbers pretty much when you look at that. Hispanics is 2.5 million per year. White non-Hispanic 2.3. Again, we were at 5.9, and then others multiracial 0.9%. Talk to me. And the other thing is most victims are young, between the ages of 20 and 40 years old.
Right. Well, first, let me say it's always a privilege to be here, be able to, I consider this breaking bread. So I appreciate just being able to spend time with you. I love what you do with the platform. And again, I pray that everyone knows that what you're getting here, what happens in News in Motion doesn't happen. And I mean this very seriously. I don't mean it by way of euphemism. This doesn't happen anywhere else in the country. The level of information, the level of detail, the level of analysis, and it's done from a genuine place, not done with any type of ulterior motive. And one of the ways, we'll talk about it in a little bit, one of the ways that we should be navigating our resources is not just with our attendance, but also with our support. So I pray that you all realize the gem that this is, and that we're all doing our best to be supportive of it. Really just a privilege to be able to share. I love that you couch this conversation in terms of capital and in industry, because I think when you do it like that, specific to when we're talking about policing, we should be very clear that when we talk about the inequities, when we talk about the injustice, I think because our communities are policed locally, it's real easy to dismiss that. But when you realize that police departments, that law enforcement is an industry, then it leads to a larger conversations. It leads to a larger conversation when you talk about officers that have firearms and understand that there's an industry that's connected to supplying those firearms. When you start thinking about it in that way, then you start questioning, for real, where's my money going? I don't want to finance my murder. I don't want to finance over.
Say that again. I don't want to finance my murder.
I don't want to finance my murder, right? So I think it's important that we understand that. And when we understand it that way, in the same way that we understand the prison industrial complex, and then understand that as an industry, that's $1 billion business, right? And policing and over policing feeds that industry, right? Now we're able to connect a lot more dots. So that industry doesn't work if there aren't bodies in it. Like the way that you break down a prison isn't by complaining about it. You just stop putting people in it. And let me just say, because I care, and we stop going. Let the real folks say amen, right? Like, so the way that you stop it is that. But one of the other ways you stop it is you understand the industries that pour into it. And if we're in a moment where the law enforcement industrial complex is a real thing, then we have to just unpack it in different ways. So I love that you start the conversation that way, because I think that's a crucial wedge to the way in which we begin to dismantle the thing that ultimately doesn't do our people well.
Well, and I agree with that. And I want to jump in with two other things I thought I was watching 60 Minutes this past weekend, and they were talking about the naval docks and so forth, and that we used to have 40 naval yards. We now only have 7 naval yards, and they're not producing the shipyards, the ships as quickly as they need to, and that they're costing billions of dollars. But China, on the other hand, has all of these shipyards, and they're building all these naval ships, and they're spending the money, and we're going to be in trouble if there's ever really a clash.
Right.
But we're pouring this money into banks. And they're talking about these naval shipyards are billions of dollars. Okay, well, you're giving these billions to banks. And let's also talk about, we're giving how much to Ukraine, which I'm in support of that. And that's the hard part, is like, I'm in support of that, but we're not taking care of our own. And I love what you said. I don't want to finance my murder. I don't want to finance it. So even if we're talking about money, of how much money we're pouring into the arms and then body cams. And by the way, I was looking at that report, how many of them the body cams were not even on. Even the one just recently, no body cam footage. Then they had an unknown identified man in a restaurant in Tucson, Arizona, no body cam footage. Unknown identified man in Big Bear, California, no body cam footage. A lot of these are no body cam footage. How even is that happening when we poured all of this money into all of this training and arms and equipment for policing?
Well, I think we're putting Band-Aids on issues that require surgery. And I'm not denouncing body cams. I think they're important, but we have to be very clear about the nuance involved. So the whole body cam agenda came out of the reality that our communities were being over policed and that people were being victimized. And then there wasn't a prosecution. So there was implication, but no indictment. And the body cams were supposed to be the counterweight to that. But what happens when you have the body cam on and then we can't even get to trial? What happens when the officer decides to turn off the body cam, right? What happens when those type of things occur, right? What happens when you have people in places? What happens when you have prosecutors that won't even bring up an officer on charges? What happens when you have ancillary organizations that support law enforcement to where it makes it harder for that type of accountability to happen? So I think we have to go deeper with just the body cam, right? But we have to also be able to say that, yeah, we have the body cam, but there needs to be some accountability if you don't turn it on. There has to be an accountability, right, for what's actually being seen. In Columbus, where I am, the most recent murder, state-sanctioned murder, the body cam was on, and all of Columbus got to watch a murder on the evening news. That officer has yet to be taken to trial, even though a bunch of our people put the prosecutor in office. So when you start talking to it, and that's why it's so important that you couch it around the money, right? Because money doesn't always buy you what you want in terms of material possession. Sometimes the biggest thing that money can give you is access.
Right.
Money
And I want to get to Latrice Jones' comment, but before I get there, you said something that's key. You said, although our people put him in office. So how do we form questions looking into this 2024 election that we're sure this is the right person to put in office?
Well, I think those questions have to be rooted in the truth of our experience. And then we have to not accept business as usual. We got to do two things at once, right? So we have to vet whoever it is we put our support behind, but then we have to create the context to where it's continual accountability. So we function in a way that's very American. America purports to be the democratic model, and the democratic model that America purports is, come election time, you make a bunch of promises, and then we just watch you and see if your promises line up with your actions. And the truth is, we don't have the luxury of doing that. We don't. Consider with me just very briefly that there's a prison industrial complex where more of us are locked up more than anybody else, and we incarcerate more people than anybody in the world, which means the family structure ends up breaking down. Then the community that you're in is over-policed, sometimes with even murderous results. So then people losing life like that. And then there's an increasing number of those people who deal with that are younger people. What happens to that community? That's right, it disappears. So we don't have the luxury of the same type of politics that maybe our Caucasian counterparts do. We don't have the luxury of that. So we have to vet candidates, but we have to have honest conversation and consistent accountability. So it's not just we saw you in October, voted in November, and we'll wait 2 to 4 years. Right. No, we need to be checking in with you 6 months. No, right. We need you to create a commission that comes out of community with people who deal with that so that we could stay in conversation with you. No, right. We need to be the voice that's on the other side of the voices that you hear when you're in office, because it gets different when you're behind the door. Most of those decisions aren't made in halls. They're made at dinner tables.
Right. That's why I talk about, I've been pushing over the past week, attend town hall meetings. Do your research, go armed with questions, pop up, raise your hand and ask the tough questions. I even talked about even going in with groups where there's groups of people and you don't sit together, because if they don't answer your question, you pop up behind that person, follow with that same question, and then even mix it up with diversity. Have a white man in the back pop up and ask the same question until we get that question answered. I want to go back to Latrice Jones for a moment, where it says one thing African Americans need to do is buy and keep life insurance. When the insurance companies are paying for all these murders, there will be a revisit because of the money being paid. Can you speak to that piece there?
Latrice is absolutely right. Like, that is exactly, if we are able, that is what we need to be doing. The roots of all of the isms of the culture are always financial. Slavery wasn't because one set of people just didn't like another set of people. It was just good for business, right? The roots of all of this is always around capital, and that's an example of how we control our dollars. Now, the other side of that is that that's hard because we don't want to get to the place. I make the contention that we don't want to get to the place where we're creating things that are pacifiers, and that's not what Latrice is saying. What she's saying is that this is our reality, and one of the ways that we navigate through this, if we're going to get through this, is that we got to control our money. We have to put our money in places that are going to benefit us. We have to put our money, watch what I'm doing here. We have to put our money on platforms that help us, that make us better. And we need to be able to hold our dollar and not spend.
But here, and I know you got some nuggets you want to give us, some step-by-steps, but y'all, we may go a little bit longer, but y'all gonna have to be okay with that, because this is important. And so here's my question with what you just said. And I too agree with that. And I too have life insurance. But what about, I want to go back to Los Angeles, that teacher making $25,000 a year. She can't afford life insurance. She can't even afford regular insurance because they're not even giving her regular insurance. And that's one of the things they're fighting for. So how do you even suggest that we support and pour our money into the things that matter to us when we can't even afford it?
Yeah. And well, let me say this. There's two things. One, and I'm not condoning the way in which our educators are grossly underpaid. That said, there are a lot of opportunities around insurance and coverage and those type of things, which, by the way, is also connected to generational wealth, what you leave behind for people after you're gone. That's part of how we build our financial legacy. There are a lot of those opportunities that don't cost as much as we think. That's the truth. But the second thing is that the way that we navigate that, Gail, is that we have to start fighting for folks outside of ourselves. Listen, until we get to the point where educators are making a wage that's higher than the living wage, when they have arguably the most important job in the country, we should be fighting for that. We should be lobbying for that. We should be resisting that. We should be talking about how wrong it is. We should be doing our part, right, to make sure that people can have a healthy life and then a healthy afterlife for their family. Like, I think that we're tired. I really think that.
I'm exhausted. Let's use that word. I'm exhausted.
I'm going to talk about it in a minute, but I really believe that this issue isn't something that's new. I think people are just tired. I think my people are just tired. I really believe that. I think in the pastorate, I think in the community, I think in whatever industry you work in, I think the day-to-day ardor of what it means to be Black and what it means to be poor for some folk, what it means to be a woman, right? Just having to deal with that every day, and then the nerve of people outside of it to then question it to where you have to prove that you're suffering before you even can get any aid for your suffering. I think that just wears on folk. And I think we've gotten so used to being tired that when it comes time for resistance, when it comes time to agitate, when it comes time to move, not just momentary activism, right? Because that's what the industry banks on. You'll be mad on Friday, maybe mad for the weekend. And then come Tuesday, you're not going to care. Right here in Ohio, that Jalen Walker case, they are preparing for agitators to the point where they're having the State of the City address in the morning, so that way that no one else will be mad. So that way, because there's a thinking that they don't really care and they're lazy. Where have I heard that narrative before, that they don't really care and they're never mind. So
that's it. That's it. I want to get to Elizabeth, and then I want to turn it over to you because I know you got some things you want us to document and be prepared. God, you said a whole lot here, my word. Elizabeth is saying we should visit the GoFundMe statistics behind fundraising for funerals, because they're always doing that, and use that collective amount as a lobby and statistics. As a people, we need to have our own pools to provide life insurance like African communities do for community growth. Can you speak to that? And I have a question. I'm turning it over to you.
That is an example of village ideology, of village thinking. And we historically have done that. And we can't buy into the narrative that suggests that when we are looking out for ourselves, somehow we are being selfish or un-American. The truth is, everybody on this thread, everybody who's going to see this, has benefited from somebody else looking out for them when they couldn't take care of themselves. That is an example of us being village. That's Ubuntu. I am because we are because I am. We're not European, right? That I think, therefore I am, that individualistic way of thinking about the world. That's never been what we've been about. And so what she just said is an example of the way in which we navigate that. And I think she's absolutely right. I think it's beautiful that these are coming out of the thread, because these are we have the answers.
Right.
We have the answers. We just have to do it.
Yeah. You're talking about being exhausted. I think I shared with you, we've been going hard since January. So April 1, we on break. Like, we'll see y'all in May. And it's because, and I was sharing with Isaiah in the green room the other day, and he kind of chuckled at me. I said, my brain is fried with news. It's like, I've had enough. Even reading this report before I brought you on, although I've read it at least 20, 30 times, it still hit me. And that's the exhaustion. It's like, this is tiring. And to even, Derek, sometimes I think forgive me for saying pastor homes. Sometimes I think about the fact that why am I still asking people to register to vote? By now, you should be like, let me get registered and let me make sure I go vote. What else do we need? Why are we trying to hype people up to go vote, or hype people up to check their voting registration and make sure they haven't been purged, or hype people up to save $5 if you have $5 extra in your savings account? Because the way things are going, we don't know when we're going to need it.
Yeah.
So I know you have nuggets for us. And again, for those of you who have to leave us, hopefully you don't have to. I want to give him all the time he needs. He will then also move us into the inspirational message. But please share with us 5 things we can do that you think is crucial right now. And I know you've already prepared those things. There's other chats that are coming in. Y'all keep the chat going. Derek will go and check that out. Isaiah will pull some of those up on the screen just so that everyone can see them. To our podcast and audio listeners, believe me, you want to come to either the YouTube or the Facebook page to see the chat and to also weigh in as well. But Derek, share with us those well, I don't know if you did 3 to 5 things things that are crucial that we need to do right now. Then take us into the inspirational message. And I'm going to tell you, because I won't come back on, because I'm going to let you just go ahead and do your thing. Mm-hmm. I appreciate you joining us. And also let us know how we can reach you, consult with you, and so forth to continue what it is that you're doing. So you take it away. Give us those 3 to 5 things that we need to do right now.
Yeah. So consider the moment, right, where the truth is that we know that our communities are disproportionately over policed. They're policed more than others. We know that police disproportionately threaten the use of violence against Black people more than they do any other demographic in the country. Black people nationally experience misconduct at 12 times the rate of white counterparts. We know that 40% of persons that contact the police feel like the police didn't help anything at all. I don't know how long you've been in school, but if 60% of the time you're doing good, that's a D. I think we deserve better, right? 87% of the sheriffs and police chiefs in the United States are white and male. That I'm not giving you opinion. These are all facts. The United States police departments across the states kill more civilians than any other police force in the world, more than Russia, more than Saudi Arabia, more than China, more than Iraq and Iran put together. That is just the truth. We know the landscape, and we have the bravery, the audacity to try to figure out how we live through that, how we survive that. One of the things that we have to do in order to get through this moment is that we have to resist momentary indignation. We have to resist the idea. We have to be the counterweight to the narrative that says they'll only be mad for a couple of days. So when these things happen, we should be thinking about movements. When these murders happen, we should be thinking about movements. We should be thinking about organizing. We should be thinking about how we create legislation that comes out of our communities that makes things better. We should be thinking about alternatives, and we need to be activating around that. Now, I get it. Not everyone may feel beat for that. Not everyone feels as if they want to be in the streets doing that. Can I tell you that liberation happens on levels? We need people on the street, and we need people in the banks, and we need people in the courtroom. Lord knows we need people in elected position. But we have to be thinking about organizing when we come out of that. I'm blessed to be an organizer in the city that I'm in. And one of the things that we're organizing around is around reform, police reform. The way in which communities are policed has to change. Broken window policing has never benefited Black people in this country. It's the idea that there are certain things that happen in poorer communities, right, that force police to go into them and then arrest and operate in misconduct. We need to recreate that conversation. The reason why that community looks that way is because it's underfunded. The reason why that community looks that way is because there aren't resources there. The reason why that community looks that way is because it's policed in a way to where the arrest rates are higher. And by the way, if I happen to be in law enforcement and I'm looking to arrest somebody, where am I going to go? I'm going to go to a place where there's poverty. I'm going to go to a place that's struggling because those things happen. That's the thinking that we have to undo. And so we have to be engaged first in organizing. We have to be pulling ourselves together. And I'm not talking about lofty thing that requires a bunch of capital. I'm talking about in barbershops. I think I can say this, say that in this space with no equivocation. In barbershops and beauty salons, definitely in the Black church, right? We absolutely have to be engaged in organizing, getting everybody on the same page, and then moving in a collective way, saying this is what we want. You do know that that's the only reason why they're there. They are not there to do what they want. According to the founding letter, they are in position because we put them there to do what we want. And if they can't do what we want, then we should move them out and find someone else, prayerfully out of our community, that can give us what we want. The second thing is that we have to support legislation. Until the apparatus is overthrown, the truth is that we're a capitalist democracy. The truth is that an oligarchy, if you really want to be technical. And the way in which we navigate that is that we have to support progressive legislation. The George Floyd Act shouldn't have taken that long to be moved, right? We have to be activating, which means, watch this, we have to be politically aware. We can't just roll over. We can't just wait till October, November to start paying attention to politics. We can't just wait till the general election. We have to be voting, which means that we have to be active. There should be some consciousness in the way in which we think about policy. And that's what we should be pushing for. Not necessarily, we should be pushing for money. Most of us have no idea how much money is actually moving through our cities that is actually intended to make it to our community that never does. You should be asking, one, why that happens, and two, we should be pushing for progressive-minded legislation, because now it creates the type of accountability that will give officers pause. It creates the thing that'll be the counterweight to the inherent bias that everybody has and that officers tend to operate in. So we have to be pushing toward legislation. I'm glad that they're putting these up here, because here's actually the hard one. We can't give in to the fatigue. We can't give in to the fatigue. Listen, I know how I feel when I hear about my brothers and my sisters, my people dealing with the reality of state-sanctioned slaughter. When I hear about the realities of the rate in which we're incarcerated, when I hear about the realities of the way in which people have to live, the conditions that people have to live in. I know that in my neighborhood, there are police here all the time. And anytime I go to another neighborhood with people who don't look like me, I struggle to find police. We have to not give in to the fatigue, and we have to not give in to the idea that equitable living and the type of life where we're not supervised in that way isn't unrealistic. We can't give in to the fatigue. We have to keep pressing and pushing and fighting and raising awareness and having uncomfortable conversations. We have to continue to agitate. We cannot be participating with the apparatus. We have to be agitators of the apparatus. That is the only way that we have gotten anything in this country. It has not been because of pity. It has not been because of charity. It is because we have had to grind for it. Let me say it the way the young people do. We get what we need when we go get it out the mud, and we can't give in to fatigue. The last thing I want to offer is that we have to be unapologetic. We have to be unapologetic about our experience. Sometimes telling other people about our experience and having other people discredit it makes us feel like that we're doing something inconvenient. It makes people uncomfortable. It makes our friends who do not come out of our community uneasy. It makes people uncomfortable. And we have to make up in our minds that we should be unapologetic. I'm not sorry about the fact that I'm sorry. I'm not sorry about the fact that I'm going through a different experience. In fact, I'm frustrated about your participation in it. We have to be honest about the fact that not everyone is our ally. I'm not here to make friends. I want us to be liberated. I'm not here to make colleagues. I want us to be liberated. I don't care about climbing a ladder that wasn't even created for me. I just want to be liberated. I'm not pushing for freedom because I was already born free. And I don't have to beg for anything that I already have. But I'm pushing for a liberation. I'm pushing for my community to be treated just as well and just as fair and just as free as everyone else's community. And that's the way in which we should be thinking about it, that we have to make sure that we're just unapologetic. I don't want you to think I'm making that up. There may be someone here right now who by chance last week didn't make Bible study. And I want to give you a quick biblical reference that should give us some framing around that. If you happen to find yourself in the New Testament book of Acts, you'll find that in the 16th chapter, a very interesting story about a brother named Paul and another brother named Silas. They were walking in the neighborhood, just minding their business. And there was an impure spirit, is what the text says, that happened to be there. They were in the community just doing what was right. Don't want you to miss it. Paul is Roman. And so Paul is doing nothing more but having the unmitigated gall to walk through his own neighborhood. Paul is walking through Rome. And while he's there, he addresses something in his community that's wrong. Oh, I need you to get that today. Paul is in his community. And when Paul sees something wrong, the Bible teaches that Paul didn't call 911. When Paul saw that something was wrong, Paul didn't look for a first responder. When Paul saw something wrong in his community, Paul's first reaction was to deal with it. And when he dealt with it, the Bible says that the people in charge, the leadership, the government got frustrated. Why did they get frustrated? It's right there in your Bible in chapter 16. They got frustrated not because the impure thing got put out, but they got frustrated because it messed with their money. That's literally in your Bible. It messed with their money, and they weren't able to make money off of the spirit that was moving through the community, that there were people in power who were attempting to make money off of the thing going wrong. Not that that happens in 2023. I'm just talking about what I'm talking about, that there were people in power who were making money off of something that was wrong in the community. And they knew that it was wrong. They knew that they didn't want it in their community, but they knew that they would benefit making money off of it. So they just kept it in the community. So that way the community would then finance them. Paul has the nerve to make a change in his community. And when he does, he is incarcerated. If you go all the way down to verse 37, watch what Paul says. Paul says about the officers, they beat us publicly without a trial, even though we are Roman citizens, and threw us into prison. Watch it now. And do they want to get rid of us quietly? No. Paul demands that they come out and escort them. Beat us publicly without a trial, even though we are Roman citizens, even though I'm in my neighborhood, even though I'm from here, even though I've been here longer than the officer that beat me, that this is my community. And the way in which we think about policing should be as Paul does, that even though he's beaten, and even though he's done nothing wrong, and even though he understands that the system is broken, his demand is for justice. Might we, as the daughters and sons of God, make up our minds that when we deal with the reality of the law enforcement industrial complex, that our job has to be to resist, to be unapologetic, and to be organized, and ultimately to demand justice. And until we get it, we need to keep working, we need to keep fighting, we need to keep agitating, we need to keep resisting, we need to keep up all of the fire. What a beautiful thing it is to be on fire. What a beautiful thing it is to be on fire. I hope that made sense. God bless you in the struggle. I love you all to life. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Yeah.